What's up, collectors? Welcome back to another video. It's November 1st. October is over. We watched a bunch of Halloween movies last month, and we're going to talk about them right now. All right, we are back. Connor Nielsen with me again to discuss some spooky October movies. Are you ready to do this, sir?
I am ready. It's November, but you know what? Honestly, like the October you see in movies really in Portland doesn't start until like the week before Halloween. So I still feel like I'm in that season. November just feels like October, the epilogue to me. So I might still be watching horror movies throughout November. I don't know. I'm still in the mood to talk horror. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. We don't get that season until like January here in Atlanta, but it's finally starting to get cool. Like I took my kids trick or treating last night in a t-shirt because it's very warm still here. But yeah, I'm ready to talk about some spooky movies. I got through more than I thought I would. I was expecting not much. I got through 19, and I watched a bunch of shorts too. But feature length, I got to 19. And you watched quite a bit, even more than that, didn't you?
Yeah, I saw 29 films, and a lot of them just weren't on my list.
Do you remember anything?
Yeah, I'm looking over here at my list, and I just think it's funny how at least 6 of them that I wanted to get to, I just didn't get to. I was going to watch those with my brother, but then we have different schedules, so whenever there was just me, I was like, all right, I'm going to watch a bunch of, like Rob Zombie movies, because I know my brother has no interest in that, and I guess I'm just going to watch those right now. So
cool. All right, well, this is how we're going to do this. We are going to just talk about our top 10 favorites that we saw this month, and then we will briefly let you know the other things we watched at the end, but we just want to spend some time talking about the ones that we enjoyed. And I actually enjoyed pretty much everything I watched this month. There was a few that I wasn't crazy about, but for the most part, it was a pretty good month. How about you?
I would say I definitely weighed more of the good stuff in the back half of the month. There was a few movies that I would say lukewarm on towards the beginning, and there were enough of those that stacked up, werewolf stuff, that I just found out I'm just not a werewolf guy. And even like the stuff people really like, everyone likes, I don't like. So anyways, but a lot of the really good stuff I got towards the last week and a half, and I think a pretty solid top 10 here. I like everything on my top 10, and honestly a few stuff didn't make the cut. I'm a little bummed it didn't make the cut, but you got all your 10 you like?
Oh, yes, I do have my list right here, and I'll go ahead and start if you don't mind. My number 10, really glad I enjoyed this because I really wanted to pick this up and I actually got this month. It is the Crimson Peak Arrow limited edition set. This is so cool. I actually don't like that Arrow does this. Do you know why Arrow does this? Why do they do limited edition? Why don't they just keep putting them out so that they can keep selling them?
I have no idea.
It's really annoying because these go for like really high prices on eBay. I actually got this for only like 40, a little over 40, which is about what it cost when it came out, I think. So I'm very happy with that, but very happy to have this. But I also enjoyed this movie quite a bit. And you said you've seen this, right?
I did. Way back when it first came out. It was the first Guillermo del Toro movie I watched.
That's right.
I want to revisit that.
Yes, because I think it's better than most people say. I always heard horrible things about this. It's kind of why I've saved it for like the last Guillermo del Toro movie that I've watched. There was 2 more that I had to watch this month, but this is almost the last one. And I was kind of dreading it because I really like his stuff, and I've only heard bad things about this, but I think it's pretty good. It might be a little typical, and it not a lot new going on here. Maybe you could argue that, but I think just seeing that with Guillermo del Toro's style over it just makes it interesting for me. I also had a really fun time watching this. This is the first movie I watched downstairs in the theater. My brother came over and we watched it with him, and I watched it with my wife, and the 3 of us were watching this, and neither of them like spooky things at all. Like, I don't like horror movies. They don't even go near the stuff. Like, because this is not scary at all. And they were like terrified the whole time, which was fun for me because I was enjoying it just because I think it's a beautiful movie. And my one gripe, I guess, is that he leans too much into completely CGI ghosts in this one, which he usually doesn't do. He usually does practical and just kind of beefs them up with visual effects. And this one, it just doesn't, that part doesn't really feel like a Guillermo del Toro movie for me. They're just like, okay, that's a ghost. It doesn't look real at all, but it looks cool. It looks like stylized. But also watching this, I also watched, spoiler alert, I watched Devil's Backbone this month, and seeing how he did that like back in 2006 compared to how he did this when he had like a much bigger budget, it looks much cooler in Devil's Backbone. So that's a little bit of a gripe. Also, like I said, it's a little bit of a typical ghost story, but I think Guillermo del Toro makes it worth it, and I quite enjoy it. That's why it's not at the top of my list, but it's also not at the bottom. It's right at my number 10. So that was what I watched. One of the first things I watched. I think day 2 I watched that. So I enjoyed it. Sorry, don't hate me, but I liked it. And I know you said you want to go back to that someday because that was really early on and you don't remember much about it, but I think it's worth a watch. I think it's a fun movie.
Yeah, my number 10. I seeded this a little earlier. It's a Rob Zombie movie.
Oh my goodness, number 10.
Yeah, I liked The Devil's Rejects. I don't have this movie physically. I watched it on HBO Max. I like this movie, guys.
Why are we apologizing so hard for our number 10s?
Well, because like Rob Zombie, I think is probably like he comes from a different art form. He's a music guy. Mm-hmm. He directed music videos, and I think there is a little bit of a stigma around music video directors coming over and directing films, and I get why. The sort of commercial music video sensibilities generally I find very tiring and don't typically enjoy all that much when I do see them applied to film. Like Michael Bay is probably the most prime example. It's very slick, it's very stylish, but it's often shallow, I find, and quite exhausting, I find. But they have your David Finchers, obviously, who just knows cinema like it's his first language. But then you have someone like Rob Zombie, where House of a Thousand Corpses, which is another movie, his first movie, which I watched this month. It was actually the first movie I reigned in October with. Oh, wow. That movie it's not great. In fact, it's not even very good. But like, there's something about it which I heard him say that he just had like a title, and because he was like a famous person who had like experience with music videos and like he knew people at like low budget movie studios, they were able to just get him money. And he's like, it was so easy to get a movie back then for someone like him. And so he just had a title and they said, here's money, go make a movie now. And so he's like, okay. And that one, it has like a concept, but it feels like a spooky like ride where it's like, ooh, go on the ride of horrors in the hall of horrors. And it basically sticks with none of that movie. It keeps some of the characters and then just keeps going in its own direction. And I'm glad you brought up Guillermo del Toro, because with this movie, I think Rob Zombie shows off a little bit of a grindhouse Guillermo del Toro element, where I would never recommend this to you, DJ. But when you watch,
know me well.
Yeah, when you watch Guillermo, like when you watch The Shape of Water,
mm-hmm.
or you watch Hellboy, you can tell that Guillermo del Toro, when he watches the Universal monster movies, to him, they're tragedies, right? Because
mm-hmm.
you have these monsters and they just want to be with their beloved, but the generic like Wonder Bread white guy comes in and like saves the day, and you're like, yeah, whatever. But darn it, I wanted Imhotep to be with his beloved. I wanted the creature to be with not Jennifer Connelly. I want you know what I mean? Like, you can tell there's that love for the monster. Rob Zombie wasn't raised on Universal Monster. I mean, he probably was, but the way in which his cinematic language speaks, he's interrogating, especially something like The Devil's Rejects. He's interrogating, why did we make a star out of Jason Voorhees and Freddy Krueger? Like that's what it is. It is the Firefly family, who are like the murderous family from the House of a Thousand Corpses, are now like on the run, and they're just on a depraved road trip to like get away from the cops, and they are doing heinous, unspeakable, horrible acts of violence for the first like half of the movie, and then the movie turns around and asks us, the audience, as for sympathy. And they've done nothing to earn sympathy from us. They have just behaved like monsters in like human form, basically. And I found it to be fascinating. It was wow. It was, to me, what I took from it is, it asked me as an audience member, why do I allow characters in horror movies to behave the way they do and still go to see the sequel? And so I thought it was fascinating.
That actually sounds like I would agree with the message, even if I didn't enjoy the experience of it, because I don't understand horror movies or slasher movies, or understand why people enjoy that.
The thing. It's for people who do like those movies. That's the thing. And
so is he really asking that, do you think?
He is legitimately asking sympathy for you.
Oh. And
so like there almost is like an element of tragedy to the final act of the movie. And like, I think it goes on a little long.
Yeah.
The point was elusive to me for so long. All the acting's pretty bad. But like, there's something about Rob Zombie's low budget eye that was stylish. Like, there was a legitimate like voice there that I found to be kind of amusing. And Sid Haig as Captain Spaulding is really, really funny. He's the best performance, obviously. He's a genre B-movie like icon. But I'd say the way I'd best encapsulate Devil's Rejects is the final scene. It's set to Freebird. You know, they're cruising down the road as the opening guitars setting in. You know that, like, you know, they're gonna go out in a blaze of glory as the cops are firing at them while the guitar solo kicks in. But darn it, Zombie's not cutting a single verse, so you're watching that scene for 4 whole minutes. And so it's like, the ideas are there. If that was 2.5 minute long scene, perfect. Yeah. It's 4 minutes. But you know what? It's good enough. So I have Devil's Rejects at number 10.
Sweet.
That took longer than I meant it to, but I had a lot to say about Zombie. I ended up watching his first like 5 movies this month.
Wow. Well, yeah, if that was your number 10, I don't know how long we're going to talk about your number 1, but just kidding with you. All right, my number 9, much to Connor's chagrin, is 1941's Wolfman. I really like the Wolfman. I don't know what your deal is, man. It was cool. What? Why you gotta hate on the Wolfman?
I guess I just don't like werewolf movies. I think that might honestly be what it is. Literally everybody I know likes this movie. I don't. I think it is like, like,
someone in the comments, as soon as you said that in the last video, they're like, Connor doesn't know. Don't listen to Connor. Wolfman's great.
Yeah, don't listen to any of my opinions on werewolf movies, guys. Like, I'm so sorry. But you know what? Tell me, what do you like about it?
I thought it was really cool. It was one of the more interesting original 5. Is it like around 5, 6? Like, how many are in this one? I think there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's 8 in this one. But like, of the ones I've seen all of these, and of the other one I watched this month, definitely liked it better than that one. I did not like The Mummy at all. I watched The Mummy this month, and I did not like it. But sorry about that. Maybe I just threw myself under the bus, just like Connor did with the Wolfman. But I really like the Wolfman. It's totally exactly my thing. I mean, you should have known as soon as there was like a carnival or like traveling fair or whatever that was, I was going to be down. Like that was really cool. But I don't know. It was like a creepy rom-com type. Like I found him charming. I liked, it's Lon Chaney, right? No.
Lon Chaney Jr., yeah.
Lon Chaney Jr., excuse me. Lon Chaney, I did watch something else of him this month. But Lon Chaney Jr., I found him charming. He was like a total creep with his telescope. But I don't know. I liked it. I liked the simple nature of the story. I liked that it was like, just, hey, there's this it's just a curse, and it's just the trappings of it, kind of like I just said with the Guillermo del Toro movie before this. Like, I liked the setting, I liked all of the players and all of the pieces, and it was just a simple, nice, short, lovely little ghost story for Halloween, which is kind of what I was in the mood for this month, especially that night. I don't know, I just really enjoyed it. What I guess, what don't you like about it? And that'll help me talk about it a little bit more, because I don't know. I just enjoyed it.
I like a lot of the production. They've been
oh my gosh, yes! All of the
years.
wood scenes with the mist and the smoke look so good.
I think Claude Rains owns that movie. He's great. Like, Claude Rains is really Kenneth Branagh in the golden age. Like, he's so good. Lon Chaney Jr. is just a stiff to me. I don't like him. Like, it was never not funny to me when it's like, Lon Chaney Jr., this is your dad, Claude Rains, and it's like this short British stage actor has to talk to this Brooklyn cab driver, and he's like, "Hey, yeah, I'm a wolf man. What's the deal with that? Oh my God, I'm gonna turn into a werewolf." And he's like Lon Chaney is like Junior's like actually like 6 feet or maybe even taller, so he's just towering over everybody, which was pretty funny. But I just think the Wolfman looks dopey. Like I didn't like the way he although like conceptually. That's the way I want my werewolves to look. I like werewolves that stand on their hind legs, but they can still like run on all four. Like, I like a lot of like what it's trying to go for. I just think in execution it looks pretty silly, which I cannot say about the rest of the Universal monsters. I think they all look wonderful, even to this day. They've aged magically. Mm-hmm. Not the Wolfman, I don't think. I think that, but a lot of it does come down to. I find werewolf movies boring because a lot of it is, oh my God, I'm going to turn into a werewolf. Oh no, I'm going to turn into a werewolf. And I'm like, yeah, I know. Turn into a werewolf, please. That's why I'm here. So I don't know. That's just my thing. I know.
Interesting.
I got bad taste when it comes to werewolf movies. Leave them down in the comments. Leave him. Hey, go ahead.
I left it open for him to redeem himself a little bit, guys, but he's just digging the hole bigger.
I'm digging it. Yeah, that's right.
It makes sense though, because you don't like The Incredible Hulk, and that's one of my favorite MCU movies and favorite television shows, and I just love that whole conceit that which is something that I think Joss Whedon said. It was like it's really hard to make a Hulk movie because the protagonist is trying not to make the thing happen that the whole audience is there to see the whole time, which is, I guess, true in such predicament. But I never find myself saying don't turn into the Hulk or hurry up and turn into the Hulk or hurry up and turn into the Wolfman. I don't know. I like that. Yeah. I like the Jekyll Hyde thing. I just like that whole. That's one of my favorite horror conceits.
I think like if it was maybe told from like Kenneth Branagh's point of view. Or like he's scared for his son to like become this thing, or if I liked the character more. Like I feel like what happens with a lot of werewolf movies is that like it's just people sitting around waiting to become a werewolf. In the case of something like An American Werewolf in London, that is literally like a scene in the movie is him just sitting around the house waiting to turn into a werewolf. But like I think that like I had this conversation with my brother. He likes werewolf movies more than I. He's like everyone else. You guys all like werewolf movies.
I enjoyed it, guys. I don't know.
But like we had a conversation like what would I want from a werewolf movie? And we actually came up with some pretty cool stuff. I don't want to get into that because it might become a short film or something that we make later. So I don't.
Sweet.
Yeah.
The werewolf short film from the guy who hates werewolves coming to a theater near you. But yeah, that was my number 9 this month. Watched, finally, almost done with this set. I watched, like I said, Wolfman and Mummy. The only one I have left in here is Phantom of the Opera. But yeah, that was my number 9. I quite enjoyed it. What was your number 9, sir?
Well, I'm glad you actually alluded to something related to my number 9 just a second ago. It's not The Incredible Hulk, but it is Ang Lee's Hulk from 2003. I don't know what it is, man. I guess I just have bad taste. I've been cursed with bad tastes. I love the Red Hot Chili Peppers. I like Eternals, and I like Ang Lee's Hulk.
Well, I am with you there, my friend. Hulk is fun. I don't love it, but it's definitely much better than most people say. Much like Crimson Peak. That got like everyone acts like Hulk is a dumpster fire of a film, and it's definitely not.
No.
It's guys, very interesting.
Guys, Hulk is really cool. I really like this movie a lot, honestly. It's not great, obviously, but I don't know, man. Like here's how I would describe Hulk. It feels like Ang Lee had never read a Hulk comic before the age of 40. And then overnight he just became a Hulk fan and was just possessed with this enthusiasm where he just had to go to whoever held the rights for Hulk. He needed to pitch a Hulk movie, and that's what it feels like. It's made with so much passion and energy, and some of it's misguided and wrong-headed in terms of like some of the way the creative ideas are executed. But man, I don't know. Like it has that thing where it's like there's 40 straight minutes of just like Hulk action. This would be the climax to most, like 99% of movies, and then it just keeps going.
I told you that desert scene is insane.
And then it becomes like a black box theater production of like a gender swapped Autumn Sonata where Nick Nolte and Eric Bana are just taking turns like monologuing at each other. Like it's insane. It's so awesome. And then they keep fighting. They actually turn into monsters and fight each other. And then it keeps going. I liked it. I love how angry everybody is in this movie. Like Sam Elliott's so angry the whole time.
It's such an emo movie.
It's great. Yeah, I liked it. There's a word for movies like this. That word is it's a banger, as the kids would say. Like it's great. Okay, it's not great, but it's great. You know, like the Hulk's so cool. Like the Hulk dog is like trying to like bite his shoulder off, and then he just like makes his shoulder bigger to like break its jaw. Like yeah, oh yeah, that's it. This is number 9. It's
Wow.
Ang Lee's.
Wow, did not expect you to say positive things about the Hulk dog scene.
Oh yeah, that seems awesome.
I could have taken or leave in that scene.
It's King Kong. Like it's like what's great about that is it's King Kong, and then it becomes Frankenstein. Like he breaks the Hulk dog's jaw, and then it's like, oh, awesome, King Kong. I was just thinking that, and they did it. And then he walks over to the pond, falls to his knees, and then like looks at his reflection, and then it's Frankenstein. Like, you know what? Bravo. Like I love you, Mr. Lee. You're so cool.
Yeah. I mean, I saw that when I was like a little kid, so that movie like blew my mind when I first saw it in the theater. But yeah, good to see some Hulk. A very strange choice for you to watch this month, but I am glad you did because it seems like you had a great time.
Hey, it's a monster movie, right? I wish all of my like turning points in my life were marked by mushroom cloud explosions. I just,
That probably the worst effect in the movie. My next one, my number 8, is one that I do not own. I would love to own. It is in a beautiful trilogy box set that was released in China, and it's I found it on eBay, and the seller wants like $300 for it, so I'm not going to get it. But it's called A Chinese Ghost Story. I didn't know this was a trilogy until after I watched it, but Chinese Ghost Story, I talked about this towards the beginning, or when we did the intro video to this month, when we were talking about stuff to watch. It is directed by Tony Ching Siu Tung, and this movie is bananas. I highly recommend this movie. This would be a movie, a good watch party movie. This is the closest I've seen to anything that gave me kind of the same feelings as House Su. This is like, I mean, totally different aesthetic, this obviously from China, totally different story, but just the absolute absurdity of the creative decisions and how beautiful the cinematography still was throughout all of it. It's totally, it's like House. It's not as, I don't know. I don't even want to say it's not as goofy or fun as House, because it absolutely is. So it's hard to even explain. I will say the protagonist at one point so he falls. It's a love story between a young like homeless guy, this young guy he's just like living on the streets, and then he goes to this temple, and there's this like Buddhist priest master who's fighting with his student that has turned evil, and they're having this like end of the world like fight, and this guy just stumbles in, and then spoiler alert, because this is the very beginning of the movie and I thought it was going to be the whole movie, the student just dies. Like I thought this was going to be like the whole fight of the movie, but then he just dies right away, and it's basically just so he can meet this Buddhist priest. And then there's this ghost that the Buddhist priest is trying to take out, and she's like she is working for Satan, I think, and she's going around and like haunting and she's just like bringing him souls, and but then she actually falls in love with I'm spoiling, I don't know, it's not a movie that you can spoil, but she falls in love with this little like this younger guy, and he keeps going back to her, and she keeps sending him away because she works for the literal Satan, and then I don't know. I can't even describe this movie. I'm failing miserably, but I will just say at one point he has to spend like 10 minutes, 15 minutes in an action scene fighting like a 500-foot long tongue. It's just a tongue. It's just a tongue that is like going through the walls and attacking them and coming back out and coming through the ceiling. It's insane. The end of this movie is absolutely insane. There's an entire musical sequence where it's like a training montage of the Buddhist priest, and he's rapping as he's training. It's amazing. Oh gosh, everyone watch this movie. I don't think I'm spoiling anything, because it's just like, it's watching it that's interesting. It's not like any particular details that I'm telling you, but I mean, look at that poster. There's Skeletor, devil guy back there. You've got romance. You've got evil. You've got, I'm sure the Buddhist priest is in there somewhere. Like, I'm not like too versed in Chinese mythology and Chinese films, but it was cool. it was I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I would love to watch this movie with just like a group of friends, maybe with you someday, if you can. I think it's actually on Amazon Prime, but maybe next year. Oh, I didn't even mention the hook for most people. Not for me, but for most people, it's basically like this director watched Evil Dead and wanted to make that, because there are these like, apparently this is everything I read on Letterboxd, because I haven't seen Evil Dead, but everyone in Letterboxd said it's like Chinese Evil Dead, because there's like these zombie things that are just like coming out of the ground the entire time. I don't know. It's a lot of things. I wouldn't even know what a tagline would be, but it's everything. It's a lot. I've done a horrible job trying to explain it to you.
Well, sold. I'll take it. And there's 2 more.
Yeah, I don't know what the sequels are like. I don't know if they hold up as good as this. I mean, it's got a 3.7 on Letterboxd, which is pretty good, especially for like a horror type thing. So it's well loved, and I didn't even know that it had like a boutique box set, but I would like to get my hands on it. I don't know if I ever will, because it's pretty pricey and probably very limited. But yeah, I was not expecting much, and I was thoroughly impressed. Really, really enjoyed it. That's my number 8. As you can see, it's pretty high up on my list.
Yeah. Well, my number 8 comes from the year 1980. This is actually how I reined in the month with my brother. Like, this is the first one that we watched together, and that is Louis Teague's iconic Jaws ripoff, Alligator.
Oh yeah, you talked about it at the beginning of the month.
I did talk about this a little bit. I really liked Alligator. I think I similarly to how I just don't really like werewolf movies, I think I just like Jaws ripoff movies, because I like Joe Dante's Piranha. I like Alligator. Give me more if you got them.
Just go through the alphabet of animals.
Yeah. So please, down below, if you guys know any great, wonderful, obscure Jaws ripoffs, preferably not Italian, I'll take them. I need to see frogs. But Ooh. There's the Birds obviously came out way before Jaws, so it's not a ripoff. But yeah, I don't like, obviously monster movies have been around forever, but like there's a specific formula that Jaws perfected that obviously everyone else tried getting on. But Alligator's really fun. This is written by John Sayles, so it has like 50 great one-liners. It's led by Robert Forster, who just has this everyman kind of charm. Like, he's the kind of actor that someone like Jeremy Renner is like the descendant of, but I like Robert Forster a little bit more personally. I don't know. It's got a really solid giant alligator. Obviously, Christopher Nolan is a fan because The Dark Knight Rises has like 5 references to this movie.
Wow.
Yeah. You thought the cops going into the sewers to try to get Bane out was silly. He got it from alligator. So if nothing else, I think The Dark Knight Rises is even cooler than I thought it was before because.
Oh no, with these hot takes. What am I gonna?
I know. This is just how I like nuke my online presence. Everyone's gonna be like,
He won't be invited back, guys. He won't.
Yeah. I don't know. The 4K looks great. This has like 3 different cuts if you get the Scream Factory 4K, which was sold in Best Buy earlier in the month, but I haven't seen it lately. I wanted to get Return of the Living Dead, the Dan O'Bannon film, but I have not picked that one up yet. Anyways, I've already talked a little bit about this. It's Alligator. It's a Jaws ripoff. It's one of the best there is. And a little kid gets eaten on camera, so.
Oh.
I mean, well, you don't see him get eaten, but like they go there, and it's unexpected. It's got a lot of fun little characters in it too, like the alligator hunter who they come in. He's like this like hotshot alligator hunter. He's like hitting on all the ladies. He's pretty funny. Anyways, Alligator, number 8.
Speaking of things that probably shouldn't be as high on the list as they should. Well, not shouldn't be, but speaking of things that people wouldn't expect to be this high on the list, it's Legend. I got the physical copy this month. Another Arrow limited edition, which is very nice. I'm very upset because it came a little bit damaged. The corners are a little smashed. But I got a really good deal on it again. I only got it for like $45. And I enjoyed this movie. I feel like I'm just apologizing for all of my choices this month, but this is a fun movie. This is just a movie. This is a fantasy movie that just knows what it is and doesn't apologize for it, right? Like, can we make those anymore? I mean, can we? Can we do that these days? We can't. That's the spoiler alert. We can't because everything always has to make fun of itself and call attention to how stupid things are. No, this just has like a 10-minute scene of 2 unicorns frolicking around in a stream. That's it. And it follow and Tom Cruise. I mean, he's basically like the god Pan. He's just like this little youthful like guy frolicking around. I've never liked Tom Cruise as much as I have in this movie. he's like a kid. It's like he's not even Tom Cruise yet. He's not even a full-grown Cruise. You've got, I mean, what? What's his name? Who plays the devil?
Tim Curry, baby.
You've got Tim Curry just hamming it up, enjoying every single line he gets to deliver. You've got like how long is that dancing scene where it was like it's like just ghost dancing scene? This is another movie where if I try to explain it, I just sound like a crazy person. So all I'll say is like, if you just like straight up good versus evil fantasy story, but also some definitely some thematic allegory going on. Just check it out, man. It's great. And I think, what do you think? Is this just another victim of the director's cut? If the director's cut had been released in theaters, you think it would be at least more fondly remembered?
Yes, certainly.
Because I've never seen the theatrical cut. I don't know how bad it is. If that's what people saw, maybe there's some justice in this. But I watched the director's cut, and I quite liked it. I thought it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think the theatrical cut is a beautiful, and like it's one of those things where it's like, it hooks me so early on, and then it's like while you're watching it, you're like looking for reasons to still stay as like in love with it as you were at the beginning, and then by the end of it, you're like, okay, this actually isn't that good, but I can change it. Like you have that like almost like apologetics way of looking at it, and then I don't have to feel that way anymore because the director's cut exists, which is a superior cut. It still has problems. Yeah. I think the second half is weaker than the first half, but just as like a dark fantasy thing about like the loss of innocence and I don't know, like the way the devil or darkness, the Lord of Darkness is like, he's almost just like, he's representative of nuance. And like, so he's not really a villain in a very traditional sense. And it's sort of like about confronting those aspects of growing up. But I don't know, like, I think that I actually quite like the Tangerine Dream score of the original. I know Some people don't like it. I do prefer, obviously, Jerry Goldsmith's score for the director's cut.
Oh, they changed the score. Wow, interesting.
Yes. The opening scene is different. Every scene is shorter in the theatrical cut, but yeah, I like the director's cut more. I think it's better, and I think like even the final shot is different. I think the final shot is like for the movie they made in the director's cut. Like the movie's all about these like, princess and like this like, forest boy wanting to be
Peter Pan.
together.
Yeah.
Right? And then like, sorry, spoilers for Legend, people should obviously go see that, but like in the director's cut, they have to go their separate ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
The ending, they're running into the sunset together. Like it's like,
oh wow,
it's not the movie. Yeah, it's so I don't know. It's pretty good though.
Well, I'm glad he got to put out his cut of it for sure. And I can't wait to dig. I haven't even opened this yet. I'm going to do a video this month because I got a lot of cool stuff this month. And I'm going to do a video just going over all of that stuff together in one video. So I will open this and show that off a little bit. But yeah, it's a really cool set. And it's a cool movie. I will say just my biggest gripe, it's not even the worst thing about the movie, but it's something that always irks me is like, I said this plays it completely straight. We do have to do the 80s fantasy thing where we have like a couple characters who just make like ridiculous like jokes like for the kids. I don't know what that's for. Willow does it too. Like we always have to have like there's this character in this where he's about to jump into a hole and he's like hasta la vista baby, and we have to like do these weird like it's not pop culture references, but it's like weird stuff that takes me out where they have to do like these goofy almost kiddie jokes, which is it's fine. It's not that much of the movie, but there are those like there's these little goblin characters that act like that the whole movie that seem kind of out of place. But other than that, I really enjoyed it. So beautiful. I loved looking at the movie.
Yes.
The cinematography is very pretty. And I don't know. We don't get enough of that stuff. That was really fun for me to watch.
Well, good.
And thank you for recommending it and sending me the copy, because before I had this, you sent me the director's cut Blu-ray, and that's how I watched it. So thank you, Sarah.
Yes, I'm glad you liked it. I know I was taking a little bit of a gamble because I know some people don't like that movie very much. I love the way it looks. Blix the Goblin is one of my favorite little movie creatures. But there are those scenes, like there are so many like scenes I will just pop in the disc and just watch the scenes. Like the part where all the like the petals are flying through the air and like the unicorns are like falling over and they're cutting off the horn, and it's super dramatic with those ultra wide lenses on them. Oh, it's so cool. And then like you said earlier, the scene where Mia Sara is dancing with like this black dress that has like this person in it, but it's like covered, the face is covered by like this glittery, like I don't know, like feels like a proto Guillermo del Toro scene. Like it's so like lavish and like lit by firelight, and like the monsters are all like treated with this like grandeur, and it's the dancing and it's so opulent, and I loved it. There's gotta be some recording of him talking about this movie somewhere. I'm sure he enjoys it. I was actually annoyed because the devil doesn't show up to like the last act, and you don't even get to see him. I was annoyed that it shows him on the cover because I would have loved to have been surprised by that, what he looks like, because they keep him in shadow the whole time, and it's just his voice. But it's still a cool cover. I like the art. I do too. And it should be said, the theatrical cut, he's in the first scene. So
Of course he is. Of course he is. I'm never going to watch that cut, so thank you for doing that for me, Connor.
Hey, it looks better than the director's cut because sadly they only had like an answer print for the director's cut, so it only has like DVD quality.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
All right. Well, what's your number 7?
Oh, got me talking Ridley Scott and Legends, so get carried away. All right, number 7. This is a movie that I saw was streaming on the Criterion channel this month, and I said, yes, that's what I'm doing. It is Catherine Bigelow's 1987 vampire neo-western romance, Near Dark. This movie is something I've been trying to watch for some time. I know that it's something of a cult favorite, but it only got like one Blu-ray release around Twilight's popularity, and like the cover is dreadful for that. Like it looks like a Twilight movie. It doesn't look like Near Dark at all. but that quickly went out of print, and then ever since then, it's just sort of been kind of nowhere. I guess there's a German release, but this movie was pretty cool. I don't know if I'd recommend it to you. My brother did not like this movie, and I went to a get together where another person I know did not like this movie. So I don't know how many people this will necessarily appeal to. I think the final like 10 to 15 minutes are kind of nonsense, but I think everything before that is really neat. The director's cut, or sorry, the theatrical cut of Legend has a score by Tangerine Dream, and so does this movie. It has a
Oh wow.
So they have a very synthetic sound, a lot of synthesizers. I think that a more like maybe like acoustic, like using actual instruments kind of score would probably be better lent to this kind of material. But regardless, I still quite like the score and found that it worked for the material just fine. This movie has the same plot as The Lost Boys. It came out a month after The Lost Boys. That's the big, people-pleasing, popular 80s Joel Schumacher vampire movie. But this one is also quite good. I don't know, like it's a mood piece. And I like those. I like how it's paced almost just like scene by scene. It's not too concerned about getting to the next scene. It's just trying to make these cool individual like slice of life portraits. And I found that compelling. Bill Paxton is sort of like the rowdy hooligan vampire. And I was watching it at the beginning of the month. I had no idea what I was doing for Halloween. And I watched this and I went, hey, my hair kind of looks like that right now. I'm going to do that for Halloween.
Yeah, I saw that. So this is what you wore for Halloween.
It was, yeah. And I'm like, I could get that from my brother. I could get that from my mom. I could get that from my little brother. And so I assembled a costume from that. But it's good. I don't know. There's not a whole lot to spoil. This is very much a mood-driven movie, and I liked getting on its wavelength. I'm glad I finally saw it. And I like it's using vampirism in like the exact same way that The Lost Boys was in a lot of ways, where it's sort of about falling in with the wrong crowd. But this one is more like looking at vampires as like junkies, and like they're just kind of like these weird nomadic people. There's not a lot of the sort of old world opulence that we associate with vampires in this movie. They're just kind of weird losers that are scary at nighttime. And the bar scene is probably the most iconic thing about this movie, and it's one of my new favorite movie scenes. I've actually gone back to watch that on the Criterion Channel 2 or 3 times. So
sweet.
Yeah. Anyways, what's your next one?
My next one I do not have a copy of, but I think I will pick this up at some point. It is Zodiac.
Ooh.
Zodiac, if you're not familiar, I think everybody's familiar, is a real-life serial killer. This is a biopic, I guess. Yeah, it's a biopic. It's not about one specific person. It's about the entire team. Actually, I take that back. It is specifically from the perspective of one specific person who claims to have solved the case and wrote a book about it. And a lot of this is pulling specifically from the perspective of that book, which is where some of the problems come in, I think. But I think overall it is a fantastic movie. I haven't seen a lot of David Fincher movies. I was going to say one of the only David Fincher movies. I think I've seen Gone Girl. I've seen a few others, but this was really, really solid. And I really like, the reason I picked this was because I got into a podcast with my wife. She's a big true crime fan. I'm not. But Zodiac Killer is the one that I kind of got into a little bit. We watched a whole podcast about it. I think it's really interesting. And I think it's a really interesting story, even though it's horrific and terrible. But so I wanted to check it out for that. Also, The Batman came out earlier this year, which I really liked. And it's kind of taking some inspiration from this real-life serial killer for the Riddler. So I wanted to watch that. And I did a commentary on this movie on the other channel that I'm associated with, which is called Geekvolution. And so I watched it 2 times in a row, 2 nights in a row. So I guess I could have got another movie in if I didn't do that. But I was very happy I did, because it was a fun, not a fun commentary. Well, it was a fun commentary, not a fun movie. But I had fun talking. I had fun discussing it with my friend on his channel. And I think it's really good. It's really solid. If you missed it somehow, like I did, It's all the way back from 2007. It has an all-star superhero cast in it. It has Mark Ruffalo, Jake Gyllenhaal, and Robert Downey Jr. Those are the kind of the three leads of the movie. So yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. And well, I wouldn't say enjoyed. It's kind of very haunting and creepy, but I loved thinking about it, and I loved talking about it, and I think it's a really good movie.
I need to finally get around to that. David Fincher's a bit of a blind spot for me. I haven't seen as many of his movies as I'd like to have. I think I've seen about half of them, but I like most of the ones I've seen. But that's kind of one of the big ones that I need to get to.
Yeah, it's great. Check it out.
All right, my number 6 is a crazy movie.
Chinese Ghost Story.
Yeah, it is. There we go, guys. It's Chinese Ghost Dog.
No, you should watch that.
I will watch it. This is a movie I think everybody should watch, but I feel like no one but me is gonna like. I'm kidding. Most people that I've like, this is a cult film. People I made a post about it, and there are people like me out there. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
What? What?
This movie, guys, it's insane. Okay, so the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre is probably, in my eyes, maybe the scariest movie that's ever been made. I don't really feel like there's a solid way to quantify that. To me, that feels like watching that is what having a nightmare is like for me. It's stressful. It's like it doesn't end, and it's like my palms get sweaty. It's like you're just stressed out the entire time, and like half of it is just people screaming, but it never gets like boring or exhausting. Well, I mean, it's exhausting, but in just the perfect way. Like, I love the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Tobe Hooper's original.
But it's no Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
Oh yeah. I don't even know where to begin with this thing. Like, obviously it's not as good as the original.
Is it just like a car crash? Like you have to see it?
No, like that's the thing, is like it starts off where it's like I get I don't know the history behind this movie. It's a canon film. So, we're talking top quality here, right?
Top-notch studio.
Yes. But it comes out the same year as Blue Velvet. But Dennis Hopper's also in this. So, like, you might not know Dennis Hopper, huge actor for like the American New Wave in the late 60s, early 70s, a notoriously like hot-headed, self-destructive drug user. And so he got put on the, no-go list pretty quickly and spent a lot of years slumming it in stuff like this.
Wow.
And then he was in Blue Velvet. It revitalized his career. So this is like the inverse of like Blue Velvet, where Dennis Hopper has to slum it in this so that he can maybe make it to Blue Velvet. I get the feeling Tobe Hooper, he makes the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. He's like, okay, I got to make these horror movies now, and then he makes enough duds in a row to where it's like, crap, I need to turn back to the old reliable franchise. I got to turn Texas Chainsaw Massacre into a franchise now. I have to do a sequel because, like, people know that title. They'll be excited to see a sequel. It's been like one whole boyhood since that movie came out, and I gotta I gotta go through canon films. Like, I don't want to make this movie, basically, but I have to. And I guess I'll just entertain myself by like throwing in these fun, weird stuff along the way. And that's what it feels like for the first half. The second half had me convinced this thing might be brilliant in its own insane, like incoherently rambling way. I feel like there is stuff about parasocial relationships that it's tackling. There is stuff about like, I don't know, trans identity, maybe, about like Leatherface and like stuff going on. Like, I don't know, like the way in which it uses chainsaws is just drawing the line for you in terms of like, what that might be shaped like. Like, it is saying stuff. Is it coherent? I don't know. Is it good? I don't know. Did I like it? Oh yeah, I liked it. It ends with a chainsaw fight between Dennis Hopper and Leatherface in an abandoned amusement park. Like, it's crazy.
An amusement park, you say?
I do. I think it has something to say about history and the way in which history is commodified and, like, you know, watered down to be something to sell to children, because the amusement park they're in is called like Texas Land. It's like relive the Alamo and relive this battle where all these people were massacred, but now it's like this but it's like enough time has passed where that amusement park is now like dilapidated. Like, there's something about like the decay of like history. I don't know, maybe I am reading too far into it, but man, this thing is awesome. It's crazy. And this is what I like. I like these movies where, like, even if there's nothing going on, maybe reading into it is also part of the fun. And like, this movie is made with like no pretentiousness. It's so entertaining and like ridiculous and crazy. And it's so 80s and low budget. And you know, I had to immediately after watching this on HBO Max pre-order Vinegar Syndrome's upcoming 4K release. So,
oh wow,
yeah, that's
perfect timing.
The Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. It opens up with Leatherface sawing up a couple of obnoxious yuppies to Oingo Boingo. What could you not love?
All right, my next one is The Ballad of Narayama. Wow, someone had a chip on their shoulder when they made this movie. I don't know the history of this movie. This is 1958. But some people in 1958 were apparently being very, very disrespectful and mean to old people, because this is a Japanese film about a folktale of a village where once you turn 70, you have to hike up a mountain and just take no food, no water, and sit there until you wait till the first snow falls. You hike up to the mountain and you just sit there until you die. Self-imposed euthanasia. Well, not self-imposed, like, I guess like culturally imposed euthanasia. Like, you can't live past 70 in this village. And it's all about, actually her name is not, what is her name? Narayama is the place. Her name is Orin. And it's about this old woman who is so sweet and nice, and this is how I know that he was very upset at young people, because her nephew in this is the worst, disgusting, despicable human being in the world. He's just making fun of her all the time. He's just like, why is she still here? I want my new girlfriend to move in with us. Can we get her up the mountain already? Like, he's just trying to kill her the whole movie. He's horrible, and I hate him. And I wish he would go up the mountain, but he's trying to get, like, and then his pregnant wife comes in and is eating all their food. Like, the young people are the worst in this movie. He spreads a rumor all around town, like, because I guess that's too much details, but there's this whole thing where she still has like perfect teeth, and it's very disrespectful to have, or it's like shameful to have perfect teeth when you're like an elderly person, because you're like, I don't know, you didn't live your life or whatever. So her son's like singing this rumor around the whole town that she like got some demon teeth. And so there's this horrible scene where she takes care of, Anyway, this is a extremely good movie. It's not really about her. I think it's more about her son, the horrible person's father, because he is just like a very stoic, silent character. He's not really showing any emotion the whole time, but he is not ready for his mom to go, and he actually has to carry her up the mountain at the end to drop her off on her back. Oh, just a beautiful movie. It's a heartbreaker. It's very sad, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's The Ballad of Narayama. It's beautiful. This is a beautiful release, obviously from Criterion. Oh, I didn't even say the most kind of unusual thing about this movie. It's told in kabuki style. It's told like a play. Like, at the end of every scene, there'll be some cool transition where just the lighting changes or the camera shifts and it goes right into the next scene. Like, it's like ends here and then the lights just go up and then or a set comes across. It's told like the whole village and surrounding areas, all this like gorgeous, luscious set. It's like it's like Willy Wonka in the Chocolate Factory, where you go into the chocolate room and it's just like this massive outdoor set. It's like that. It looks so cool. The production design is one of the coolest things about it. And I almost didn't mention it, but it is gorgeous. One of the most beautiful, almost, it's not Technicolor, but it looks Technicolor because it's so like beautiful and visually stunning and very, very colorful. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Can't say enough things about it. That's why it's like my number 5. Is that where we are? I don't know where we are. I've lost track at this point, but I like that a lot more than I thought I was going to. So
you have sold me on that. That sounds wonderful.
Check it out.
I mean, kind of heartbreaking, but beautiful.
Yeah, it's very it's very good.
I went from one 80s splatter fest going to another one. My number 5 is Chuck Russell's 1988 remake of The Blob.
Oh, The Blob, not the one that's in the Criterion Collection, the remake.
Yeah, I watched the 1958 Blob last year, and now I watched the remake this year. It's really good. Here's what's cool about The Blob. So it's co-written by Chuck Russell and Frank Darabont. Frank Darabont, of course, would go on to make The Shawshank Redemption, The Green Mile. He created the first season of The Walking Dead. He's a beloved screenwriter director in Hollywood. And this is, I think, one of his earliest gigs was co-writing this remake. It has wonderful dialogue, just like Alligator, about 100 great one-liners, really sharp, fun stuff. But what's cool about the Blob remake is that it is effectively just a construction of a bunch of other movies. And that's typically like a kind of a slight against movies that you'll hear people say, like, oh, there's not an original bone in this movie's body. There isn't in this one either. Like, it's a remake, obviously, but beyond that, you have references to The Last Picture Show and American Graffiti. Candy Clark from American Graffiti is straight up in this movie playing like the waitress character, and her relationship with like the high schoolers is very similar to the waitress and the high schoolers in Last Picture Show. But beyond that, like he's obviously looking at his contemporaries. There's a lot of, looking at The Thing and other John Carpenter stuff. The climax is ripped almost directly off from Aliens. It's very much looking at other people, but it's also knows how to do it its own way. And obviously, like, there's a whole sequence that's set in the sewers that is just Alligator. But like Alligator,
we know you like Alligator. Give it a rest.
I know. Alligator, secretly the most influential film of the 1980s. So so like it is looking a lot at those things, but it knows how to make those elements fun. And I was almost looking forward to the next thing it was going to do its version of. Like, so when we get to the Aliens ending, I wasn't rolling my eyes going, okay, this is Aliens. It was, all right, let's see the Blob do Aliens now.
That's interesting.
I was really entertained by this. This is better than the original. Everyone was right in that regard. I love the kind of subversive quality here. I like how the main character for the first 10 minutes just gets killed, and I had no idea where it was going. Wow. And there's a lot of fun, gooey kills. I love the kind of gallows humor there is here, where Candy Clark is inside of a phone booth as the Blob is on top of it. And in this one, the Blob doesn't just absorb things; it like melts and disintegrates things. Where she's on the phone, she's like, "Get me the sheriff!" And then like the 911 operator says, "The shoulder," and you see the sheriff's head roll by in the Blob. It's got some fun stuff like that. Another one, like Alligator, you see a kid get killed by the Blob, which was shocking and crazy. There's a sequence in a movie theater that is awesome. There's the great moment where like the Blob is on somebody and they're like, "Help me!" and their arm is sticking out, so someone reaches over to grab their arm and try to pull them out, but they end up just ripping off their arm. And then you see like the arm is still like twitching on the ground. Like, it was a lot of fun. And this is the kind of stuff I find entertaining.
Yeah, probably. No, it's totally cool. But this is why it's good to be friends with each other, because you don't recommend this stuff to me, and I have a good sense of what you like, and I don't recommend stuff to you that I don't think you'll like. Although you definitely have a wider palette, I would say, of things you'll try. But yeah, so basically, just put kids being murdered on screen in a film, and Connor will love it.
Oh, of course, yeah.
That's what he's all about. I also watched a movie this month where a kid was eaten on screen. And that's not on my top 10. That's not the reason, but I just didn't like that movie. But yeah, man, I'm glad you enjoyed this.
But no, The Blob it's a lot of fun. It's not too long. I got to dock at points though. I'm upset when we got to the ending, we didn't have some kind of 80s cover of Beware of the Blob, because that was a total bop the first time around, okay? And whether it's like a cheesy 80s ballad by like Gladys Knight or something, or whether it's like a terrible hair metal cover by like Twisted Sister, I don't care. Give me a Beware of the Blob, and we didn't get one. So I got a docket points for that, obviously. But beyond that, it's just a really solidly crafted monster movie that is, it's the 80s looking like we look at the 80s as like 80s guys, right? Everyone's nostalgic for the 80s. We've been nostalgic for the 80s for as long as I've been alive. But in the 80s, there's a lot of 50s nostalgia, and this is definitely doing that. And so there's a Stephen King sort of quality to this that I found endearing. And beyond just like fun monster stuff, there's a sense of community. There's a craft here that is admirable. I will buy this physically. Anyways, what's your next one?
My next one I would buy physically because I really enjoyed it. Clearly, we're on my number 4, and I did buy it physically this month, and I'm so mad that I did. It's the The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. Let me get the order of the title right. Good grief. I loved this movie, but I'm mad I bought it because a 4K is coming out like next month. This big, awesome... someone in the comments told me about it in that video right after, literally the day after I ordered this. He left that comment, and I was like, no, it's this beautiful 4K, like big deluxe black box set. It looks awesome. I got the Kino with the slipcover, which is still great. Still looks really good. Looks amazing. I can't imagine this movie looking any better, but apparently the 4K does. But yeah, so I'm a little bit of a bummer. Maybe I'll eventually buy that because I really did like this. I mean, it's German expressionism, and it's about it's technically a fair, not a carnival, but hello. I mean, I really, really enjoyed this. Have you seen this yet?
I have not. So if you want to kick that one over to me, I can take it off your hands.
Oh, that is a good idea. That is a good idea. I'll send this one to Connor, and then I can get the new one. No, I won't say too much about it because Connor hasn't seen it. But this is as good as everyone says it is. This is the movie. I did read so if you open this up, there is a little Kino essay in here, and reading this gave me a little more context on the film. This is not really about the film or interpretation or anything. It's basically just about the influence of it. I didn't know that this was the film that basically like jump-started the German Expressionism movement into film. It was already an art form. It was already in other aspects of art, but in cinema, this was like the one. And then I think Metropolis was the last one. But this is great. I don't want to say too much about it because the letterboxed description kind of spoils way too much, I think. I wish I hadn't read it because it tells you this is a very it's a mystery, and it's got some twists in it. So don't read the letterbox description. It gives away way too much in my opinion, and I wish I had gone in completely blind, but I very much enjoyed it. It looks awesome. Like, I'd say even more so than Metropolis. I know how you love how Metropolis looks. Metropolis still looks like the real world a little. I mean, but the architecture is crazy, but this just looks like a dream world the whole time. Like, it's like Dr. Seuss land. It's like the angles don't make any sense. Like, everything's all over the place. There'll be a guy, he's trying, like, so Caligari is trying to get into this carnival, and he's trying to get himself like a booth where he can set up his weird diabolical act. And he goes in to talk to the guy about, where can I get set up? And he's talking to the bank teller guy, and he's just in this gigantic chair. Like, he's just sitting in a chair that's like 5 feet off the ground and like crooked over, and it's like he's about to fall out of this chair, and it doesn't matter because it looks awesome. and that's how the whole production design for this whole movie, like everything, nothing makes any sense. It's not the best way to do it, but it looks awesome.
Nice.
And this is kind of I would say this is the movie that most made me feel like a feature-length Georges Méliès. I know this is German and not French, but like this seems like a perfect extension of what Méliès was doing in the early 1900s, and I love all of his stuff. So seeing this kind of take that one step further and going even further with the fantasy was awesome. And I just watched this on Halloween last night, and I ended the month on a high note. Very happy to finally have seen that. And who knows? Maybe I will send that to Connor. We'll talk.
Excellent. That's I meant the movie sounds excellent, but also, hey, if you want to send it over to me, that's excellent too.
But yeah, what's your number 4?
Number 4, so we talk about how like, I got these hot takes, right? I'm popping off shots, left and right. Well, one of my hot takes is hot no more. It's actually a cold take. I decided to just kind of on a whim revisit this movie. It's never been a movie I've cared for. I understand its importance and its influence, but I've never liked it. And then I decided to watch it again, and that would be John Carpenter's Halloween.
You've changed your tune on this?
I get it now.
What? You've been a downer on this movie ever since I met you.
I know.
Well, probably not. You probably just watched it a couple of years ago, but
no. Like I've seen it. Like I watched it in high school.
Oh, okay.
Never cared for it. I watched it before the 2018 movie came out, and I'm like, this movie's not about anything. It's well made, but I don't care. And I had a bit of a different experience. This was the first time I ever watched it all by myself. It was at nighttime, right after I got off work. I was on the couch all by myself. All the lights were off. It was the perfect setting.
Spooky.
I don't know. I think obviously people have different experiences, and that's sort of like what generates, conversation. That's what usually a collective experience is what makes, art important. Enough people have the same experience with something. And so I think my initial dislike for this movie, I think, came from I just knew everything about it before I watched it. Literally everything about it I knew. And so watching it was like a formality. Mm-hmm. I knew even details that you wouldn't think to know. I knew those details. And so it was like so it's like watching it was like formality. It's like I've seen this without seeing it. And so watching it was like, yep, that was Halloween. That was the movie I was always told it was. And then but I had no experience of my own. And then beyond that, there was this sort of thing where I saw my whole life how people were experiencing it and the way people talked about it. I'm like, okay, that's the way you're supposed to experience that movie. That's the way you're supposed to feel about it. This is the way you're supposed to read it. And I just never saw it that way. And now that I sort of just abandoned myself to being this is not a movie for me, I can just free myself of that need to like it. And so then just sort of watching it on a whim, all of a sudden I liked it. I don't know, earlier in the month I said An American Werewolf in London, it's just a movie that, maybe I'm not old enough to appreciate yet. I feel like I finally got to that point where in order for myself to appreciate this movie, I kind of needed to be an adult. Yeah. And not just legally 18, over the age of 18, but I feel like I'm an adult now the way I wasn't when I watched it 4 years ago. And for myself, in order to actually like this movie, there's a loss, the death of all these teenagers and this town, and there was almost a distance I needed from being a teenager myself in order to be nostalgic for the teenage years, in order to experience the sort of life that these characters are never going to experience. I needed to experience that for myself in order to see the tragedy of what was happening here. The way in which people interpret this movie, I allowed to influence my perspective on it. I think I see what people see in it, but I have my own unique perspective on it. I don't want to go in too far on this, but the big thing though is I can't believe I watched John Carpenter's Halloween, a movie I always said is not scary, and I watched it and I felt scared, and I'm shocked. I'm shocked I had that experience.
Yeah.
I said when I first watched it, I knew everything about it. I guess I forgot some stuff. And
watching a million movies will help you with that.
Yes, it will dilute that. The part where he pops out from behind the couch, I actually jumped.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe I was actually caught up in the tension of high school drama where Laurie's nervous about asking out Ben Tramer. I was with her in that car, and then later that tension was like recontextualized to being scared about the boogeyman outside, and I was impressed. So anyways, that was my number 4. I finally really like Halloween.
That's so good. I'm so happy for you. I still haven't seen that movie, but I definitely understand that phenomenon where different people from year to year, and like you could completely have different experience with the film. And maybe I will with that other movie that I didn't like this month, but I don't think I'm going to give it a chance. I definitely had that recently with the Grand Budapest Hotel. The first time I watched it, I didn't like it at all, and now it's like one of my favorite Wes Anderson movies. Well, what are you going to do? People change. Yeah. People change, and we are people.
Hey, isn't that novel, right? We're people.
We're people. We're just humans. We're just humans just giving our perspective. So if we ever say something that sounds absolutely heinous to your mind, we just have different opinions, man. It's fine. We don't judge anyone for liking stuff we don't like.
That's right.
My next one, we're on our top 3. We're on our top 3. That's crazy. This, by the way, would be my number 3. I'm not going to talk about it because I watched it last year and I just wanted to get some new things on here. But I rewatched Arsenic and Old Lace. It is still amazing, still wonderful. So very happy that Criterion put out this release, which has beautiful cover art. Hilarious, wonderful movie, best Halloween movie, Frank Capra just knows how to make a movie. He's incredible. So my other number 3 is another Criterion movie. It is, which I don't have yet, but I will be picking up next month in November for sure. It's Haxan. I freaking loved this movie, as you predicted, and you knew I would. This is, I don't know. I don't want to say too much about it because that's kind of what I liked about it was going into it. I didn't even know. I'll just say this much. It's like a documentary. What? No one told me it was a documentary. Like I didn't even. Right? I didn't even know we made obviously we made documentaries, but I didn't know that we were making like documentaries like this in the 20s. Like, it's crazy and it's really funny. Like two things I was not. If you had asked me 2 questions, 2 things I was not expecting going into this. It's a documentary and it's really funny. How I don't know how he does it. He's basically like, just by putting all of these outlandish and ridiculous beliefs that the medieval people had on screen, just deadpan, it's hilarious. and also you've got the director himself playing the devil in this movie, and he's perpetually has his tongue sticking out of his mouth like he's in a medieval painting, but he just always has it out. He's like, oh, it's hilarious. I mean, it's not hilarious. It's dryly funny at points when just talking about that stuff. But it's a pretty good thesis too. Like, it's basically him proposing that the thesis of the documentary is basically that the people who were accused of witchcraft back in the day basically had the same psychoses and mental health issues that people in asylums have today. Not today. During this time, and they were and this is another guy who has a chip on his shoulder, right? Because he's basically saying that they are being treated the same way they were back then, not exactly the same way, but pretty much being treated as badly. Hopefully, it's a little better now in 2022, but in 1922, wow, 100 years.
Yeah,
100 years. Good grief. He, Benjamin Christensen, was very, very not happy with the way people were being treated, and I don't know, man. Just the whole. And we'll get to it again with another pick that I watched this month. The whole witchcraft thing is something I haven't thought about much, and it sucked. Like, it's really, really bad. What happened to those people? And I don't know. This is, like I said, it was funny, but it was also really, really, really sad. It's a really bummer of a movie. But I don't know. I liked it. I like movies that make me go through the entire gamut of emotions, and that was this one. And it also just looks amazing. I love how it looks. It looks really cool. It's not just a documentary. It is a documentary with like performances of what's going on. I don't even know what you call that, but like reenactments of what are going on. So it's if I've turned you away by calling it a documentary, it doesn't feel like a documentary. It's until like kind of the last act. But for most of it, it's like just reenact. It's like a lecture, which also will turn people off. But I love it. It felt like a college class, especially in the beginning. He's literally telling you things about what they believe, and he has a pointer on screen. Do you remember that? He has a pointer, and he's just pointing around. I loved it. It was like a college lecture. It was great. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, because it's like you can see how it influenced like the found footage genre.
Yeah,
you can see how it like you're right. It's a mockumentary, but it has like actual things it wants to say, but it dresses it up in kind of like a genre fashion. It's so weird and cool.
Yes, weird and cool. That's basically my description of all the things I like this month. It's so cool
because it's like there's like several layers. There's Benjamin Christensen, the director, and then there is Benjamin Christensen, the director, the character within the movie he is making, and so it's like there are like layers to like what's happening or like what the perspective is. Like I thought it was pretty fascinating myself. I'm glad you liked it so much.
I really did, and I recommend it to anyone. It's on the channel. That's where I watched it, and it's also on HBO Max with a horrible cover. I'm so upset with the poster that they are advertising it with on the cover because it doesn't match the movie at all. But yeah, it's on the channel. It's on HBO Max, and it is on disc, which I will be picking up in November at a Barnes & Noble near me. But yeah, that is my number 3. What is your number 3, sir?
My number 3 is a favorite of mine. We've mentioned it before in the past in videos, but I gave this one a watch with the first movie in the series. But this sequel is on my list of favorites. That is Guillermo del Toro's Hellboy 2, The Golden Army.
Just making my day. Isn't it amazing? Isn't it just lovely?
This movie is so good. It's one of those things where I feel like after Pan's Labyrinth and then being able to go into this, I feel like Guillermo del Toro was just on a high in life, and this just captures a joy that is almost indescribable. Like it's so pure in I don't know. It's 2 hours of joy, and that's what it feels longer than it is, but that's not a problem. I love it. It's got like things about
it. You just turned into Tommy Wiseau for a second.
I love you. I love you, Lisa, so much. I love Abe's. I don't know, like so. I don't even know where to start here because it's like
I don't know.
There are things about it where like you could get on it for maybe being a little thin here or there, or it's there are like aspects of it that are maybe like tonally a little silly, maybe like it doesn't actually take the time to properly delve into like the ideas that it's raising, but it all comes down to the direction for me. Like the way Guillermo del Toro is juggling the balls, the way he is his touch is just on everything, and the way everything just sort of like is harmoniously in sync with one another. I'm able to just intuitively fill it in with my own experience, and I feel like the joy I'm experiencing is like I'm sharing this joy with Guillermo del Toro, and it's like there's something like this like magical about that experience. I'm glad I got to watch it with my brother who was watching it for the first time.
Oh, that's cool.
Like Ron Perlman is perfect in this role, and it's one of those things where off the top it almost like I had that worry where I'm like, oh, is this like not really a Hellboy movie? Is he just getting sidelined in his own movie? And then the movie almost like addresses that by bringing in Johann Kraus, who all the other characters are like in love with, and they're all like putting Hellboy off, and he's like, grumble, grumble, grumble. I'm like, oh, okay. But then by the end of it, like it's a Hellboy movie, and Hellboy's got to be the one who does the big fight at the end, and it's cool. But
great scene.
The creatures, the villains are great. Like the creatures are amazing. The Angel of Death is one of the most elaborate insanely amazing creations that only appears in one scene. Like,
So much work, yeah.
is there a more elaborate creature in movies that only appears in one scene? Like, it's amazing. Like, the eyes all along the wings. I don't know, the experience of this. It is legitimately heartbreaking. We'll never see a third one.
I know,
and that, like,
right?
And it's not just that, because it's like, it's the kind of movie that you fall in love with and you just want more. He strikes that perfect balance. He strikes the perfect chord. Like, I don't know. This might be my favorite Guillermo del Toro movie. I haven't seen all of them. I do want to go through all of them and watch them all. But like, it is firing on all cylinders. I love the aesthetics of everything that's going on. I don't know. Like, everything about it just works for me. I think it's great. What's your third favorite? What was your number 3?
Well, real quick, I agree with you. Like, I think technically, like, Pan's Labyrinth and Shape of Water, and funnily enough, the next one I'm about to say, are better films, like tighter films, like better crafted films. But Hellboy 2 is just so fun, and like the world is so, like you said, it's so expansive. It makes it seem like every single detail of this world has been thought out, and we don't get to see it all. And then we literally don't get to see any more of it, which is the saddest thing ever. But yeah, and
then to add insult to injury, we got the 2019 movie, which might actually be the worst movie I've ever seen in my life. Like,
I haven't seen that yet still.
But like, yeah, we have like a 15-minute sequence that's like in a troll mark.
The troll market is so cool.
And it's like, there's not a single human character in that scene. Like, that's like, and then it's like, I love the structure of the movie. I like how it takes place over the course of like 14 hours. So there's like an urgency and an immediacy to the proceedings, but like, and it kind of adds to a fun, like almost everyone's getting tired as the movie's going along. I love, like, when I was watching it, and it's like Abe Sapien is, the Princess Nuada, I think that's her name, and they're both telepathic, and it's like, oh, I know all these things about you. Your name is Abraham Sapien, blah 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 blah, and he says, but when we touched hands, I couldn't help but notice things about you. I'm like, I love this movie. Like, this is so weird, and like
it's crazy.
Someone from the outside looking in and be like, this is like a nerdy movie. Like, wow, this is weird. Like, it is, but like, it's doing it perfectly.
Yeah, it's so good. And it's like one of the best superhero movies ever made. It's crazy. It's crazy that it's a superhero movie, and it's that.
And it
good.
Also like is maybe like an X-Men movie for like a scene where like they stop the big like elemental monster, and then everyone's like booing them, and it's like, we did this to protect you, so to protect people who
he's just like them. He's just flexing, right? Like, he's like, I can make all of these. I could make every superhero, every comic book movie in my one movie and do it better.
It's like the troll market makes me feel like, how did we get an entire trilogy of new Star Wars movies and not get Guillermo del Toro to make one of them? The scene where he's fighting the elemental, like, makes me feel like we should, like, why isn't Guillermo del Toro making an X-Men movie? And then it's like, my favorite scene of the movie is just Hellboy and Abe getting drunk, singing Barry Manilow.
Yes,
like,
it's amazing.
Perfection.
Speaking of Hellboy 2, on the commentary track for that movie, Guillermo del Toro says at that time that his 3 favorite films that he made are Hellboy 2, Pan's Labyrinth, and The Devil's Backbone. This is my number 2. What a good movie. Like I said, this is a tight movie. This is unlike Hellboy 2, which I think is thoroughly through and through a fantasy movie. This is a lot like a lot of Guillermo del Toro movies, where it's basically just a good story with like one element thrown in. That was a lot of people's complaint with Crimson Peak, was you could just take the ghosts out and it didn't matter, like the ghost didn't have any effect. That's not true here. It actually does. There is a ghost in this, and it does have it does kind of get the ball rolling, because he speaks to a character and gets things going. But it's also just a really, really good movie, and if the ghost wasn't in it, it's just a good story. And that's what I love about Guillermo del Toro, is he just tells really good stories. I'm not even a big fan of like the macabre and dark stuff like this, but he makes me a fan for 2 hours while he's telling me these stories, because he just sucks you into the really, really good story. And the elements just work. They just make sense. And This is awesome. This is very, very dark and depressing. And like Guillermo del Toro always does, he has a kid at the center of it. Usually he has, not always, Shape of Water, but Pan's Labyrinth, Devil's Backbone. He usually has just a really, really cool kid who's much cooler than I am or anyone watching. And he's just in this horrible situation with these horrible, horrible people. And usually, like most of his movies, the people are really the bad guys and the monsters are not. And it's just so cool. Now that I've seen this, it's crazy that I've reviewed both of these or watched both of these this month, because this actually has a reference to this. So if you see, there's this really cool way that he visualizes the ghosts in this. And if they had a wound that killed them, the blood is kind of coming out of their head still in like a misty, ghosty kind of effect. And he does that in this with, I won't spoil who it is, but a character in this who becomes a ghost then has the same thing. And he's referencing this, which he does a lot. I don't know if you watched, what was his last year's movie? Nightmare Alley. He has a reference to that, to Mimic of all things. Like there's this big, I think it's the big Jesus Saves poster that he has. That's very prominent in both films, like takes up the whole screen for a pan. I think it was in Mimic that he originally had that. Might be wrong about that, but he likes to reference his old movies sometimes. He's like Pixar. But yes, these are both, I enjoyed both of these. Obviously this is much, much better, and I highly recommend this. Having now seen all of Guillermo del Toro's movies, these are the last two I needed to see. Criterion kind of has it right. I think the three that they have are his best movies, but Hellboy 2 is amazing. I would still love a Criterion release. I don't think it'll ever happen, but these three, I mean, if you see nothing else, get Pan's Labyrinth, Devil's Backbone, and Kronos. Not enough good things said about Kronos. I freaking love Kronos. But yes, I finally have seen all of Del Toro's movies. I'm very happy. You got to get on it, man, so you can do that ranking video soon. Yeah, Pinocchio is right around the corner. Yes, I was gonna say Pinocchio's on its way. I'm gonna watch them all. I'll probably just watch the Hellboy movies again. Like I like the first Hellboy movie. I just think that the third act is kind of weak. I just feel like that third act, like that movie is very obviously about belonging. And then the third act is like, it's about choices. And I'm like, no, this is not the story you're telling. But it's good. Yeah, that's the one. I have my ranking pretty much in stone, except for like the top three are always shifting around. But I really need to watch Hellboy again because I've only seen it once, a long time ago. And I need to see where it fits in. It's basically like this and Hellboy are probably around the same area. Okay. This is more of his artistic vision. Because Hellboy is more of a studio movie, but I think that was also a little better quality-wise, so it's going to be like, I have to watch it again so I can compare these two. But yeah, I'd love to do that ranking video with you. Hopefully we can get that out pretty soon. But that was my number 2. Somehow you got in front of me. I don't know how that happened. You have 2 left still. I do have 2. Okay, you have 2 left. So number 2. I threatened watching this last year. I didn't. I made sure to watch it this year. If ever there was a Western to watch in October, Clint Eastwood's High Plains Drifter is that movie. Yes. You hyped this one up quite a bit. I love this movie. It has elements about it that have aged pretty awfully, and I will not defend. However, what's strong about this movie is so good. So basically, Clint Eastwood's character in this movie is like a character playing a Western game on God mode, where like they are like invincible. They never miss any of their shots. He just like produces infinite sticks of dynamite to throw out. I don't know where he got those dynamites. And then at the end he becomes a slasher. But this movie is an ambiguously supernatural Western, and it is a vicious satire of post-Watergate America. And it is Clint Eastwood very early in his career, his third film directing, where he is already like like what's the term where like you're like trying to demythify something. It's it's like the opposite of myth making. Whatever anti-myth making is, that's what he's doing. Myth busting. Myth busting. Hell yeah. So he is like tearing down the myth of the Western. The cowboy who's like the hero. You mean like deconstructing?
I guess it's deconstructing. But like John Wayne hated this movie, and that's all you need to know.
Yeah.
He is a rotten scoundrel, the nameless drifter in this movie, and he's the hero, not because the movie tries to like not in like a Rob Zombie way. Where
I was going to say you're connecting Rob Zombie and
Clint Eastwood.
Clint Eastwood in this video of all things. I wasn't expecting that.
He's not doing the Rob Zombie thing where he does like ask you sympathy. No, he's telling you these people that he is out here like exposing, they're even worse than he is, or just as bad. But he makes no illusions about his terrible behavior. But he also might be some kind of vengeful spirit. It's unclear. You could look at the credits and try to be like, blah, blah, blah. I think there's some really cool stuff that they do with casting. I don't want to spoil it here, but I love this movie. It's very entertaining, very darkly funny.
Are you telling me this is a Clint Eastwood Ghost Rider movie?
Ooh, you know what? If he had a flaming skull in this movie, it would be a 10 out of 10. All right. Anyways, this is a favorite of mine. If you have never seen this, check it out. This poster, I think, perfectly sells it. It is otherworldly, covered in red and flames, and Clint Eastwood is a dirty, rotten scoundrel.
Dirty, rotten scoundrel. Wow.
What's your number one?
My number one. What is my number one? My number one, totally unrelated, just happened to find this in the wild, which is crazy. I was not looking for this. I just happened to find this before I even watched it. It's the Carl Theodor Dreyer collection. Found this, remember that store we went to while you were here, Connor? This is called Second and Charles. Found this for $31.
Oh my God.
Can't find this for less than $100 on eBay. This is crazy. This is an out of print. So there, I'm one up on you now. This is an out of print box set for Carl Theodor Dreyer that was only released on DVD back in the day. Never got a Blu-ray, and it's not in print anymore, but this has Day of Wrath, Gertrude, and Ordet, and it also has a documentary on the man. It's a 4-disc, actually, and I just so happen to have Day of Wrath on my list this year, and just so happen to find this. So very happy about that, and I checked it out. So we'll pop it out here. This is Day of Wrath. Speaking, like, I couldn't get away from it this month. Speaking of this is probably one of the most heart-wrenching movies I've ever watched.
Whoa.
This was worse than Ballad of Narayama. This is brutal. Carl Theodor Dreyer. I think I'm just gonna love everything he makes, man. I mean, I liked Vampire more than you did. And then Passion of Joan of Arc is incredible. Maybe the best silent movie. I don't know. And then this just wrecked me, dude. This was so good. This is also about witchcraft. I'm so happy. This is probably like the least appropriate for October movie, like the least Halloween related movie, but I'm glad I watched it because it was a perfect companion piece to watch with Haxan. Haxan takes a very, like we said, documentary approach to it with just like the facts and science and reason kind of. And this is just pure emotion. And this, I don't even know how to explain it. So this is about this older woman here. This is what gets the ball rolling. She is accused of witchcraft. She's this old woman. She doesn't want to die. She runs to her friend, this younger friend, whose mother was also accused of witchcraft. And she is married. It's so that the main character, she's like in her 20s, and she's married to this very old like priest. And she doesn't like him at all. As you know, she was just forced to marry this guy. And we come to find out that the woman's who's married to the priest's mother was accused of witchcraft, and he kind of swept it under the rug, and so now she's coming back, and she's like, if you don't save me, I don't want to die. If you don't save me, I'm going to let this out, and you're going to be in huge trouble, and that you knew about this. So she keeps like pleading. Oh, it's so sad. It's the saddest thing I've ever seen. Like they're just torturing this old woman, and it gave me the heebie-jeebies. It really broke my heart. And then he like I'm doing a very bad job. I'm gonna get emotional just thinking about this movie again. But it's I'll just say this. I won't get into any more plot details because I don't want to spoil anything. But this does something that we are not able to do today. I don't think. Like, we cannot just play things straight. It comes at it from a modern lens. Like, you know that these people are doing wrong things, but it never like puts judgment on them, you know, or it never. We go either one or two ways these days. We either like the movie's just like heavily like, look at these horrible people. Look, aren't they terrible? And you feel no emotion for them, right? Or it goes the other way and it has the characters acting completely out of character, even though they're supposed to be in like the 1700s, right? Or they're like they're completely like, oh, we don't want. You can't sympathize with people doing these things, so we just change and they just don't act like that, right? This doesn't do that. You understand where everyone is, like, they act exactly how they would act, even though it's very, misguided and outdated, and wrong. But they also, you see where everyone is coming from. You see exactly how kind of like Passion of Joan of Arc, where even though they were like the villains of the movie, they weren't like completely just evil. Like, they actually saw where they were coming from. This even more so. Like, you see why this priest is doing what he does. You see why he thinks this is the right thing to do. You see why the women are accused of witches act the way they do. Like, I don't know. It was an emotional ride. I was glued to the screen the entire time, and I commend Mr. Dreyer for being able to do this so flawlessly. I don't know how he was able to tap into this. Apparently he was raised Lutheran or something and had a lot of experience with this, but he nailed it. I freaking love this movie, and I don't know. Like I said, I won't say anything more about it plot wise, but it's a tearjerker, and it's also very spooky. It also doesn't. It leaves the door open to be actually supernatural. I don't know. It's a lot of things. Everyone's already heard about this movie. It's got like a 4.2 or something on Letterboxd. Everybody, I'm last to get to the table on this one, but I'm so glad I did, and I can't wait to watch the other two movies in the set and Master of the House and other just Carl Theodor Dreyer movies, because I'm a Carl Theodor Dreyer fanboy now, apparently, because I have loved everything he's done so far that I've seen. Maybe he's made some stinkers, but that was my
I'm really
one.
happy. That's wonderful. I'm glad. And then like that set, it's in wonderful condition.
I can't believe that someone turned this into and they sold it for $30. Like, it looks great.
That's a steal. Man, I am jealous, but I'm so happy for you.
I know. Sorry, I just went off and made no sense probably for the last 10 minutes, but hopefully it enticed you a little bit to watch that movie because I really enjoyed it. What is your number one?
Well, it isn't as prestigious of a movie as Day of Wrath. I just want to prime our audiences for that. This is what I referenced earlier. This is a personal favorite of mine, and I watched it very recently. Warner Brothers, very popular catalog title of theirs. They put it out on 4K recently, and that is Joel Schumacher's The Lost Boys.
Hey! I just cut to my camera right when you revealed it because I hit the wrong button. Sorry about that. This is The Lost Boys. There it is. That's a cool cover.
Live DJ reaction. He's unimpressed. He's like, I've never seen Lost Boys. Why should I?
Yes. Well, sell me on it, man. Sell me. Why should I watch Lost Boys? You love it so much.
This, I think, belongs to a collection that is like one of my favorite genres, which is great comic book movies that are not based on comic books.
Wow.
Like, John Wick or The People Under the Stairs, maybe Rocky 3, stuff like that, where movies that I know I'm really selling you now by comparing it to Rocky 3. But this is wonderful. I really want to watch the Creepshow films because apparently those also are very much leaning into the comic book influence. This does not. This doesn't like show you its hand on its comic book influences like something like Creepshow or Michael Dougherty's Trick or Treat. But this captures the 80s in such an authentic way that only being there probably could. Like, whenever we go back to the 80s, it's idealized, and that's typically the way we often do it when we do go back in time. It's recreating a point in time that someone is nostalgic for, and being, and that's cool and all. We have our Stranger Things. It's kids on bikes. Ooh, kids, like the missing kids on like the milk cartons and whatnot, and it's doing all that. but
Hmm.
like this is blending the 80s like pastels, kind of ugly fashion, but like it's cool then, like but it also has like 50s nostalgia. It takes place primarily on like a boardwalk for a lot of it, so there is that kind of like 50s 60s, like the squares are kind of dressed up like it's the 50s or the 60s. They're eating cotton candy. There's like the tilt-a-whirl. There's all that kind of iconography there. But you also have like actual 80s music playing. Like there's like this like big hold on, I'm gonna cut that part out. I'm trying to remember where it was. Anyways, but like I don't know, like there's like it, like I don't know, like everyone's hair is so wonderfully ugly in this movie, right? Like it's like that's the way it was, I imagine, right? It's trying to be as authentic to the time as it can to appeal to people in that time, obviously. Like I think the best way to describe its setting is I think this has one of the best like opening credit sequences. It's set to People Are Strange by The Doors. I think it might be a cover, but
So
it does a good job.
when is this movie made? It's not made in the 80s.
It's made in 1987.
Oh, okay. I
um,
thought you were saying it was like a period piece and it was trying to be as authentic as possible. You were saying it was just being
no,
like
I'm sorry.
authentic to the time that it was
Yeah,
made.
I think now when we make period pieces about the 80s,
Yeah.
there's this a clean idealized version of it because we were people who are making those movies were kids then.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just, a guy who I imagine is in his 30s or 40s. He's a filmmaker. He's like, okay, just looking out his front door and like just capturing what he's seeing. So there is like a grit to it, even though this is kind of something. It's rated R, but like it's a very light R. Like teenagers could watch this very easily. But like it's a good. I think beyond just like its really wonderful setting that is. It's authentic to the 80s, but it's capturing it in a very comic booky, heightened way. I love the characters in this movie. I love the actors in this movie. It actually has a pretty big cast, but it's balancing it all so handily. Like there are it primarily centers on two brothers. One who is like younger, one who is like an older teenager. Their parents just got divorced. They're with their mom. Their mom and them move in with their grandpa who lives in Santa whatever. It's some coastal city in California that is the murder capital of the world. And it's the summertime. The little kid meets some other kids who run a comic book shop, and they're the Frog Brothers, and they're also vampire hunters. And then Michael, the older brother, is attracted to this girl, and then she is hanging out with these bad boys who are bikers, and they turn out to be vampires. And so you sort of have this. Michael is primarily the main character. He's sort of falling in with the wrong crowd, similar to how Near Dark sort of frames vampirism that way. But the movie also, I think, captures brotherhood in a very authentic way, where he loves his younger brother. It's not, he kind of gets on his nerves, but they behave the way brothers do. And it's a really solid, like, just parable of, like, loss of innocence and, like, trying to be your own man and, like, kind of the stumbles, the hurdles that you stumble over when you're like kind of growing up. I like the way the vampires are sort of this collection of counterculture movements throughout the years. They look like 50s greasers, but they also look like 60s, 70s hippie stoners, but they also look like 80s punks. They're all of that at once, and it just, I don't know, like, it's so pure. I love the dialogue. I love the characters. It has so many wonderful little moments and scenes. I pick up on details every time I watch it that I never noticed before. It's so tonally locked tight. I think, like, in terms of like the script or the story, like there's a time jump it makes that I wish we spent more time with, where it really kind of centers around Michael's descent into falling into this, wrong life or whatever. It kind of, we see the beginning of it and then we're just in it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it authentically captures like a solid mother-son relationship, brother-brother relationship, moving into a new place. It's relatable, but it's heightened. It's authentic, but it's comic booky and exaggerated. It is one of those things that, I don't know, like I keep saying it, but it strikes the perfect balance. I really like this movie a lot. I've seen it 3-4 times now. It is one of my favorites. It's a big influence on me and the way I want to make the art that I want to make. It's very crowd pleasing. And of course, the finale has some wonderful, over the top, gory violence where they take out the vampires in very satisfying 80s fashion. And Nanook, the dog, one of the best screen dogs. I love that dog.
Wow.
It's got everything.
I find it interesting that we both really struggled to talk about our favorites. Sometimes the movie just hits you, man, in a perfect emotional place, and it's hard to describe exactly how much you love it, but that's how I was with Day of Wrath. That was only my first viewing of that. You've seen this film a couple times, I imagine. So I can't wait to check that out some more really quickly, because we were already at almost 2 hours. We got to fly through the rest of
just 1 second. I wanted
things
to
we've
say,
seen.
It also, it's a summer movie. It takes place at summer, but I cannot imagine watching this at any other time than October.
Okay.
It's one of those things, yeah. Anyways.
Cool. I'll have to check that out at some point. Really quickly, I'm just going to fly through the other things I've seen, because we have gone, we've gone, like we have a tendency to do, we have gone long-winded on this. I'm just going to keep going down my list. I did watch the Yokai Monsters collection. I watched the entire 60s trilogy. So glad I got through all three of those. I think the first one is great and atmospheric and super creepy. And the second one goes completely bonkers, like bizarre Power Ranger land. And then the third one is a really cool, awesome, intimate story about a father-daughter story with monsters, which I really liked. So I liked all three of those. I'm upset that none of them made my top 10, because I would have liked to talk about those. I also watched Nightmare Alley, the original, this month. I got to see the 1925 Phantom of the Opera in the theater with a live organ accompaniment, which, what could be more perfect to watch with a live organist than Phantom of the Opera? I watched Company of Wolves, which is an 80s like twisted horror fairy tale, which has the most crazy werewolf transformation I've ever seen. You should maybe watch that. Insane. Instead of just turning into a werewolf, he like tears all of his skin off, and then you see his muscular system, and then his anatomy, you watch his anatomy change into a wolf, and then he grows the hair back. Totally horrifying. And then I watched Koroneko this month, which is in the collection, and I watched The Mummy, which I referenced earlier. Didn't really care for that. And then I watched The Witch, also this month. So 20 movies this month. I said 19 earlier. I actually watched 20. It was a jam-packed month for me, especially. So yeah, what else did you check out, just briefly?
All right, yeah, just gonna fly through the next. I watched 29 total. So the next 19, I'll just fly through these, starting from the worst one I watched to the 11th best. Number 29 was the 1988 trash bin classic. I don't know if it's even a classic. Necromancer, 1988, starring Elizabeth Kaitan and Russ Tamblyn. Number 28 is the 2009 animated film directed by Rob Zombie, The Haunted World of El Super Beasto.
Oh no.
I didn't like that. That's the worst Rob Zombie movie, and I would be impressed if anything was worse than that. I didn't hate it, but I did not find it amusing. 27, the most recent entry in the Halloween series, Halloween Ends. Number 26, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, also from 2009. Number 25, Marvel Studios special Werewolf by Night. Same old Marvel crap. This time they made it black and white, and so people who've never seen Universal Monster movies say, wow, it's like a 1930s movie. No, it's not. Number 24, Rob Zombie's Halloween. Number 23, An American Werewolf in London. Number 22, the original Wesley Snipes Blade. Number 21, Rob Zombie's directorial debut, House of a Thousand Corpses. Number 20, Francis Ford Coppola's Tim Burton movie, Bram Stoker's Dracula. Number 19, Michael Dougherty's...
Cut him off, guys. He's been on too long.
Trick or Treat. Number 18, 1942's Cat People, which was pretty good. I jumped out of my seat because the hotel or the apartment building that the one lady lives in is the Ambersons mansion from the Magnificent Ambersons. It's an RKO movie from 1942, and Magnificent Ambersons took up a lot of stage space, so I know for a fact that had to be the same set. Anyways, number 17, Joe Dante's The Howling. Number 16, now we're getting into the stuff I quite enjoyed. The wonderful oddity that is Blood for Dracula. Number 15, The Wonderful Oddity That Is Flesh for Frankenstein. Number 14, David Cronenberg's The Brood. Number 13, Guillermo del Toro's Hellboy. Number 12, the 2013, I don't even know what the history behind this one is, but it's the WNUF Halloween special.
Yeah.
I want more people to see this.
I'm glad you liked it as much as you did. You were talking about that for a while, so cool.
Yeah, and then number 11, Sam Raimi's Army of Darkness, which I found to be quite amusing. Anyways, those were all the movies I watched this month.
Wow. It was a great month. We watched a ton of stuff. I'm looking forward to seeing how much of it stays in our brains. I think my top 10 definitely will, and a few other things. I think I'm going to go back to the Yokai Monsters at some point. I have to, because there's a fourth film on there, which is the remake. But yeah, I had a lot of fun this month. Thank you for doing this for me. For me? You don't work for me. Thank you for doing this with me, because it pushed me to watch more things. I probably wouldn't have, tried as hard to get as many things in if I didn't have a partner doing this with. So thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed it too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Thanks again for having me. Thank you for putting up with my snarky hot takes. It's all in jest, everybody. If I don't mean to offend anybody, I welcome open discussion. And if you guys have your opinion, I obviously respect them, and want to hear from you guys too. Oh,
of course. We all have our hot takes. I mean, you just heard my list. I had The Witch at number 20 out of 20. Really didn't like that movie. So attack me in the comments too. But yeah, thank you for listening. Thank you. Sorry we went a little bit long. Let us know in the comments below what you guys watched this month. What was your favorite things? Or just tell us everything. Just run down the whole list like we did. Or recommend what you think we should check out. I guess next year. This is our annual thing that we do. We can watch movies that are spooky, like outside of October, obviously, but we like to try to fit in as many as we can, just to be on theme this month. And now it is November, and there is plenty of year left to watch lots more good things. Like I said, hopefully we can do that Guillermo del Toro movie soon, watch through the rest of his stuff, and get a ranking video out for you guys. I'm going to keep putting out videos as often as I can. And yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you real soon in the next video. Thanks, Connor.